I'm gonna let you guys take a breath, and in the meantime, let's invite on the stage our moderator, Kateryna Khinkulova, director Hanna Bilobrova, editor Dounia Sichov, and the producer Uljana Kim.
This on? Yes. Hello, good evening. My name is Kateryna Khinkulova. I'm a BBC journalist and producer, and it's a huge honor to be here this evening at this UK premiere of this incredibly powerful and haunting film, and in the company of these great women. And I'm particularly happy that Hanna is here this evening. We've never met before, so hello. I watched this film before the screening, but on the big screen, it's a completely different experience. So I think you'll agree with me. It tells a very different story. The story. So as a journalist, I've been following war in Ukraine for the past year very closely, including the tragedy of Mariupol. But the way it looks, that incredibly powerful immersion that we've just experienced with this film, creates just a very, very, very different experience, even from when you watch it on the news, or even when you hear stories from journalists who've been there, or you hear voices. And you know, in documentary making, there is this expression, show, not tell. And I think some documentary makers sometimes struggle with it, because if they're trying to tell a story after the events had taken place, very often the stories are based on interviews with people, and you have what we call talking heads instead of actual events and images of what happened. This is the very opposite of that. So again, thank you for being here, and I'm glad that so many people have gathered. My first question is to Hanna. When you were there in that church and in Mariupol, how did it feel? Did it feel that you were making a film, or this was your life? This is what you were doing now? If this is not too traumatic a question.
It felt exactly the same way as you saw and feel in the film, and it was a part of daily life, even us as filmmakers, to be there. But it was not any difference between artist, filmmaker, and the regular people, because we also wanted to survive. We wanted to eat, cook, and keep our lives. So it was very natural. I mean, in terms of it was not any different life for us than for people.
And what then happened to the people in that church, do you know, and to that church?
Before Easter, people was thrown away, and unfortunately, of majority of people, I don't know their destiny, like their fate. But one girl whose children you saw in the film, she was living in some building, destroyed building, and then she moved to different area now. But her child damaged, like cut off legs with some glass, and very bad condition of the child now. So it's like pneumonia, and legs are not healing. So her child lost 2 liters of blood, and now actually I just talked with Uljana that I sent a bit of money before, like last week, and she received. So it's a good sign that I would love to help this family. it's very important for me.
Yes, exactly. So it felt like if you were there in that mode of survival, you must have formed these quite strong relationships with those people.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like I remember how when Mantas disappeared and I was looking for him, and then I was told that probably it's my husband killed, and I returned to the church and I told these people that we're still here and Mantas disappeared and please help me. I received this news that it might be Mantas there, and you can't imagine, like, people like Oleg, Victor, they've been like sitting and crying, and I was like in shock, but I was like nursing them and tell like maybe it's not him, like just wait, not cry, just wait, because the relationship was so strong at some point that it's like I gained friends and even relatives for life.
This is this is a question to both you and Uljana and Dounia. This is you worked on Mantas' previous films with him. You were his closest colleagues and collaborators. How different was this film, if it's possible to answer this? How, when you were, when I watched it for the first time, my first question was just very simple, kind of technical one. How much footage did you have? How much footage did you fit in? How did you choose what you put in the film? How did you tell that story?
I can answer. We had enough footage to make 2 films, actually. When we were watching the footage with Anna, at one point we discussed about that, about how Mantas filmed, and I was really surprised because it was not the way he used to film. It didn't look like Mariupolis 1 or Parthenon or or the other films. And I said it seems he shoots as if he's in shock. And Anna agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really not the way, because he would film your microphone and then go to the table and then go to Anna's face and then go back there, and you didn't have this. You had this, in French you say sidération, so it's a kind of when you are trapped.
Yes. So there's a feeling of that static life, and there's nowhere to go. And definitely, when you say you're trapped, because there's several shots where you do feel like he's in prison and he's looking through to outside world and looking for ways to escape.
Just, it's not a lot of, as for Mantas, it's only a few hours. And it's the last 7 days, of Mantas. And what we have seen on the screen, it's that what he experienced, and shared with us. And also very important that he is, as Anna, I think that you told about it already, maybe in other Q&A, that, he's also like a character of this film, because he's this camera and it's a direct cinema, without any additional, that our task was without any additional, how to say, kind of, we didn't create some additional dramaturgy, aestheticism. No, it should be like this, without any additional touch, technical, or, it should be like this because it's very important. And also to hear his voice, and to see him, even shadow of his camera, and that we can, as audience, identify with him, and to see, what's happened. And it's a unique experience, I think, because I haven't seen, something like this. We saw a lot of reportage or photos, Bucha, whatever. So you can see, you can confirm it. It's really different because you live with these people. They have no future, no past. They have only each other, And in spite of everything, they are how to say, they're cooking, they're caring about birds, you know, they're waiting spring, and other style that you can see, you know, behind on the, and all this war, these bombs, it's the sound is without any additional technical, how to say, touch. You know? It's a real sound. That
I guess it's even a bit reduced, even if the sound reduced a bit.
Yeah.
Well, like while editing with Dounia, we was discussed that, like, Dounia, you know, maybe we should like cut some sound because it's like too much bombs. That I was like, people would think that we like
added,
we
enhanced
added,
it,
but
yes,
yeah,
but you actually
no, we actually yes.
You told me just before we went into to watch the film that you were in touch with Mantas, and you did you talk about how he would want this film to look?
I don't know. I didn't know he would do this film. He didn't tell me.
No,
Nobody knows. Only Hanna and Mantas.
And our friend Jesse Hackett, he also knew. He was with us in Uganda, and thank you for coming. And yes, so just on like few close friends, they knew that we're going to Mariupol, and and from Lithuania also like a couple of friends who helped us with tickets or with humanitarian aid, and most importantly, Ira Prutkova knew. She's line producer on First Mariupolis, and she's journalist. So yes, and only us with Mantas, we knew how we wanted to do this film, but Mantas had an ideas, but when we arrived on Mariupol, it's a totally different Mariupol, right? And all the film was written by bombs, so you can't just like think creatively. It's like camera is a part of your body, so it's like lies down with you and like survives with you. And of course, I have additional footage. Like Mantas' idea was mostly like to add more footage from mobile phones. So like when we arrived to the city, like to show open space of the city, but when we were sitting on an editing table with Dounia, I want to keep this feeling of closeness, of close space, because Mantas was one of the characters of the film. So I didn't want to give this space. So basically, like Mantas, and also Mantas wanted to. We started from this idea in the first Mariupolis. He had the closing poem of Balano, and he wanted to use this on second Mariupolis, and like until the end we was arguing and have these emails with Uljana, and she was like no, and I would add, and then like on the last cut we with Dounia was rewatching a cut, and then I'm like no, Dounia, let's cut this poem again. So I didn't want. Yes, we discussed with Tim. I didn't want to be inframed by something because it's like already.
It does create that you do have that contrast between the open space and that being constricted in that constricted trap space. So that is very powerful. And as you say, you see Out of Style, you hear about the drama theatre. So it is all there, all the sort of punctuated with those real events, and makes it even more real. I'm afraid our time is extremely limited, so even though I personally have more questions, but let's move to your questions, which you probably have. So anyone? So at the back there. Are they still in occupied Mariupolis, or they managed to?
Did you hear me? Yes, you asked what happened to these people, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are they still in Mariupolis, or did they manage to escape?
Like I know about Lilia and her children that is seen in the film. So she remains in Mariupol. And yes, with others, I don't know. Probably they are there, and I hope that they are alive because it's like all older people, so they could not move, and it was not any evacuation opportunities.
How did you manage to escape?
It was a journey. Like I was looking for my husband 5 days, actually today, 1 year ago. Yeah, I started to look for my husband, and then Russian soldiers, local Russians, they helped me to drive Mantas' body to Donetsk morgue. And after Donetsk, I found people, so I was on my own with body of my husband, like trying to find the refrigerator and so on, find the documents and so on and so forth. And on my own, I hired a car to border between Russia and Donetsk, and after that through whole Russia and in Latvia. I asked my friend, our friend with Mantas, to meet me. We put Mantas coffin into his car and then drove to Lithuania. So it was quite a journey. It was a miracle that I was kept on a Russian border more than 12 hours, checked, and I had a footage in my underwear. So I was trying to escape these metal frames, not to be really checked. So I was risking not just my life, but also to lose one more time Mantas, even though he was dead.
Thank you. Thanks for an absolutely extraordinary picture, and congratulations. It's really superb. And I think it's really important too, because it is such an honest picture of an albeit very small bit of the awfulness of that war. One of the great challenges in telling the story of this war accurately and honestly is the huge amount of disinformation out there. What's your perspective on that? What's the best way to overcome and counteract that malign influence?
Because of disinformation or lack of information, we went there to Mariupolis with Mantas. We knew that even at that conditions, people still alive, and most of them, right? And they need to survive, and we wanted to help people and to see what's happening. And also, most importantly, was to ask people how, not even ask, but to feel how they feel there, right? Because when we arrived, we've been asked but look, everyone forgot about us. And we was disappointed with Mantas, wait a minute, the whole world talk about Mariupol. And people in that exact basement was telling us, no, you're lying to us. Everyone forgot about us. We're still here, we're under the bombing, we are killing, we surrounded just by death. And I was Mantas was about to cry. I was also so disappointed. And then I'm but look, we're here. We knew that you're here and we came. So we with you now. So, and also when you see these jokes that people make, that's what they are talking about, right? When you under attack, you don't know. It's lack of information there. It's the last radio wave. It was before 2 weeks before that we arrived to Mariupol, and then you even you didn't know what's happening on the neighbor street. So people don't know even how the different groups of soldiers looks like. And of course, when like it creates misunderstanding of what's happening, and also who where belongs, and you see and feel just bombing, and it's for you, it's, as a civilian, it does not matter whom it's belong, right? But when, of course, when I get out from Mariupol, I knew exactly what was happening there. And yeah, I don't say, don't understand me wrong, that everyone should go to front line and see what's happening, right? But it was our choice with Mantas, and exactly because we wanted to see how people live under that conditions, and not to follow like fake news, disinformation, or who want to tell what.
Yes. And it's thanks to the bravery of people like yourself, like Mantas, the photographers who worked for Associated Press, Evgeny Malolietka, people who were in Mariupol and who were documenting what was happening. And it's thanks to them that we knew that we weren't fooled by kind of hearsay and information that wasn't accurate and factual. One more question, please.
Thank you. That was, I think, as you said at the beginning, very, very moving and very haunting. And you placed us uniquely in the scene with real people. So very well done. And thank you for making a unique piece of war footage. I'd just like to ask, picking on that point, the documentary filmmaker, you are there to record. And you touched very beautifully at the start about we often have talking heads who then present the post-conflict, post-instant account of what they saw, which may not be accurate. I was watching intensely there and deeply that you captured comments, the comments about those people's views about this war and whose war it is and why people were fighting. There was mention there of being worse off for many years, after the Soviet Union indeed. And also there's the question about, the statement about oligarchs who are doing extremely well out of this, extremely well, and were before. Did you encounter anything, or would you be able to share anything about, not talking heads, but the conversations that those people suffering, how they felt beyond what we heard on the commentary from them? And perhaps also your views maybe from the BBC side of why we don't ask these questions of ordinary communities. So I'd love to hear what you heard there.
I don't know what that more than you saw in film. And I don't want also to choose a parts and sides. It's like my statement very clear, and for all the world, I guess it's clear that Russia invaded Ukraine. That's it. Thank you. And also we have civilians who have to deal with it and have to die because of this war.
I found that dialogue very, very interesting, and but I think the sort of interesting thing about it is that it certainly represents a view from that community, but I think it's probably one of the several or many views of this very complex, multifaceted picture that you would have in a place like Mariupol, which we simply don't have enough time here to go into just how complex it is with the history going back centuries and history going back to 2014, and what role it played in the in the conflict and in Russia's aggression against Ukraine, which started back in 2014, and the attitudes that kind of formed, and yes, and of course the views in that community and in other parts of Ukraine, they're not always the same, and there are people who miss the Soviet Union, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they, represent everything. And we do hear these voices. We do go out and listen to them and collect those voices, and they're certainly kind of worth hearing. But I think one thing is to keep in mind is that that quite complicated context. And for example, one of the things that we hear quite a lot when we make films about the southern and eastern Ukraine is how people speak Russian. And one of the things is being said. In fact, I've even some of my colleagues refer to it as people still speaking Russian, and I often have to explain to them that they speak Russian because it was part of the Soviet Union, and before that it was part of the Russian Empire, and we're dealing with these very complex post-imperial, post-colonial narratives, which have to be unpicked quite carefully. And I think what this film does. It's not a news report. It's not a sort of analysis you'd read on the BBC or in The Economist, but it creates that feeling that these are real people with these complex heritages and complex lives, and perhaps encourage the audiences to look into it a bit more, learn a bit more about the history of this part of the world.
Absolutely. I want to add a very personal story, though, because I'm from Eastern Ukraine, from Lugansk area, and my brother, when war started, so before that, my brother was trying to get work, a full-time job. He got it, war broke out, and I called him and I'm asking what the situation, right? And he's like, today I went to the war, to my job, and I've been told, okay, come back after 2 weeks, and we would know what governmency we would have, so for whom we should work. Basically, it's a factory. And I'm like, and what? And he's like, came back home and went to went for a fishing, because he has to have food to eat today, not in 2 weeks.
Do we have to stop now? Yeah. I'm afraid we have to stop rather abruptly, but we're going to be, because there's the next event taking place in this space, but we are going to move outside, and perhaps if there are more questions or discussions, there'll be a possibility to ask them. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you so much, Hanna. So it's
Thank you.
Special
Thank you,
treat,
everyone, for
and
coming.
Uljana and Dounia. Thank you.